Are you struggling with shoulder flexibility? Well, today I'm going to share with you 3 exercises to help you improve this. But first, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and give this video the thumbs up so I can keep providing you more valuable content just like this video. The 3 exercises I have for you today are designed to improve both your passive and your active flexibility when your arms are overhead. So whether you're a pole dancer wanting to perform a simple chair spin, or maybe you're wanting to improve your needle scales but you can't quite reach for your back foot, including these passive and active shoulder flexibility exercises in your routine are going to be absolute game changers. But first, what is passive and active flexibility? Passive flexibility is when we use an external force to bring our arm or any muscle into its end range of motion. This external force could be yourself, it could be gravity, it could be a resistance band, or it could even be another human. Active flexibility is when you use the strength of your own muscles to reach that range of motion. I see many students who have amazing passive flexibility in their shoulders, but do not have the strength to access that range of motion. And without that strength, it's going to be hard to safely and injury-free perform a lot of simple spins on the pole. It's going to make it very hard to reach for your foot in a needle scale. And when we lack that active flexibility, our joints are more prone to injury. Our body doesn't feel as safe deepening that passive range. And it's going to make it very hard to reach for that needle scale or safely and simply perform that chair spin or any other spin on the pole. Your first exercise for today is a prone overhead arm extension. For this exercise, you're going to need a yoga block. So I'm going to face the floor, place the yoga block between my hands. Now, keep note, it is between my hands, not between my fingers. Purpose for this is to make sure that my wrists don't cave in towards each other. I want to keep the block between my hands. This is also going to help keep our arms shoulder width apart, which is very important for this exercise. We don't want to have arms flung out to the side. So laying face down on the floor, I'm going to place the block between my hands and then I'm going to face my head down to the floor. From here, I'm going to proceed to lift and lower back down. So I'm keeping my head down on the floor. All I'm focusing on doing is lifting my arms up as far as I can and lowering back down to the floor. Now it's important that I keep my arms super straight, so no soft bends at your elbows, none of this. I want to keep those arms straight and hands shoulder width apart. Now, if you don't have access to a yoga block, you can repeat the same exercise without. It's just very important for this exercise that we keep those arms narrow. So I'm keeping my arms about shoulder width apart. And if you don't have the yoga block, I want you to be facing your wrists towards each other rather than face down. Not only is it important to build both passive and active flexibility as that arm comes overhead into flexion, it's also important that we build strength in our active flexibility in our external rotators when they're in their end range of motion. Our external rotators provide stability for our shoulders when we are pole dancing and also make it easier to reach for your foot when we're in a back bend. Now, the deeper a muscle comes into its range of motion, or the more into that flexibility you get, the harder it is for a muscle such as our external rotators to find strength. So if you notice that when you are reaching for your foot in a back bend or a needle scale and your arm tends to fall in a lot, that's probably a sign that your external rotators are not quite strong enough. So reaching for your foot as that arm caves in is really hard to do. It's virtually impossible. So instead we need to be able to train those external rotators so that we can bring that arm around into external rotation and reach for that foot. Those external rotators also provide a lot of stability for our pole dancing, such as when we are in twisted grip. The stronger they are, the better they're going to be able to engage and help us prevent many shoulder injuries related to pole dancing. So for this exercise, we're going to be needing a chair, a yoga block, and a thick resistance band. So I'm going to place the resistance band around my elbows. The purpose of this band is to ensure that my elbows don't wing out to the side. So I am using quite a thick, heavy band. I'm going to then place a yoga block between my hands. The purpose of the block is to stop my hands from caving in So I want to try and keep my hands nice and wide throughout the exercise. And don't just have the block between your fingers, make sure the block is completely between your hands. From there, you're going to place your elbows up on the chair and you're going to sink down into a nice deep shoulder stretch. From here, you're going to proceed to tap the block overhead and then we're going to release back out nice and straight. Again, release or tap the block overhead and then we're going to release back out straight. As a general rule, I like to aim for 10 of these. And then as we get a little bit more advanced, we can try to remove the thick resistance band. So what makes this a little bit more advanced and a little bit harder is now you have to prevent your elbows from winging out to the side. We've got to instead try squeezing those elbows in. So we're bringing our arms into external rotation. So keeping that band off for the harder variation, I'm going to try and keep my elbows squeezing into the side of my head as I tap overhead and then release out nice and straight, ensuring that my elbows stay pulling in nice and tight. Now, the deeper you go into the stretch, the harder it's going to be as well. And we can take this one step further by removing the yoga block and trying to pull those arms out nice and wide. So just remember, those arms are not allowed to cave in and elbows have to stay squeezing in. For this third exercise, we're going to be focusing on a bit more passive shoulder flexibility. All you're going to need is a chair. For this exercise, it's important that we keep our arms in external rotation, so I'm keeping my palms facing each other. So keeping those palms facing each other, I'm going to place them up on the edge of the chair, and I'm going to begin to lower down, making sure that my butt is directly on top of my knees. And it's very important that I don't just arch my back to lower down as deep as I can. Instead, I'm going to try and tuck my butt under. See how my back is almost rounding as I tuck under? And then begin to lower down as deep as I can with that booty tucked under. Now I'm also keeping my elbows really straight. I'm not letting them bend. I'm keeping them straight and I'm keeping my arms about shoulder width apart. I'm not letting them wing all the way out to the side. So I'm booty tucked as I lower down, making sure to breathe. So you can take a big breath in and big breath out and trying to sink deeper on those exhales. After a while, once I feel like I've had a good stretch here, I am going to start to allow a little bit more thoracic extension. So thoracic area is kind of like my upper back area. And I'm going to start to think armpits lowering down to the floor. So you'll start to notice I'm getting a little bit more of a back arch now, but my butt is still quite tucked under. And then after a good 30 seconds or so, I'm going to allow myself to lower quite a bit deeper, allowing a little bit more rounding through that upper back. Now, if you are struggling to keep your arms narrow or you're unsure if your arms are in the right position, I'd thoroughly suggest trying this exercise with a thick, really heavy resistance band around your elbows. This is just going to stop those arms from winging out as I place my arms on, keep my butt tucked under, and then lowering down into the stretch. And again, the band's just assisting me to keep those elbows in narrow and not wung out to the side. Thank you for watching today's video. If you did give the exercises a go, please let me know how you went with them in the comments below. And I'll see you in next video. Happy stretching.